and welcome to Exams Factory Masterclass. My name is Sandra, and today I'm going to be helping you with the C1 listening exam. So if you're looking to boost your confidence and improve your exam performance, you've come to the right place. Today, I want to share with you 4 tips that are going to help you improve your mark in the C1 listening exam. Let me tell you what those tips are. The first tip we're going to look at is how to know the format for the C1 exam. The second tip, I'm going to show you how to make the most of your pre-listening time. Those are those seconds that you have between the start of the instructions and the beep of the audio. The third tip we're going to look at today is how to focus on meaning and not just words when we are doing the listening task. And we will finish with the last tip, which is how to turn the mistakes that you make when you're preparing for the C1 listening exam into progress that you can measure on the exam. Let's get started. So our first tip for the day is to learn the C1 listening format. Obviously, when you are preparing for an exam, you have a game plan, and that should involve knowing very well the task types. If we look at the listening C1 exam, we know it has 4 distinct parts. 2 of those are multiple choice exercises, 1 is a multiple matching, and also a sentence completion exercise. They have different number of items each one, and they focus on different types of listening skills. So it's important for you to learn strategies for each of those tasks and know how to do it. This is going to help you improve, and it's also going to boost your confidence because you will not be as nervous during the exam. Let's look at the second tip. How can you make the most of your pre-listening time? By pre-listening time, what I mean is the amount of time between the start of that part, when you hear now turn to part 2, and the beep. The amount of time between those 2 is what we call the pre-listening time. And it's actually a very underrated opportunity for you to improve your mark in the C1 listening. How can we do this? Well, first of all, when you're reading the instructions and the task, pay attention to the task roles and context. What do I mean? If you read in the instructions, you will hear 2 people discussing a problem that they have at work. Your mind should already start thinking within that context. Okay, they're at work. What could be an issue that they have? Something about responsibilities, deadlines, maybe something with a client. Get your mind working into that context during that pre-listening time. You should also be paying attention to the vocabulary and the phrasing that you have on your exam paper. But remember, those are going to be different words from the ones that you hear in the audio. They're going to be paraphrased. So already start thinking, hey, what is another way that this idea could be expressed? Because maybe that's what you will hear in the audio. And of course, during this pre-listening time, we want to pay attention to key words that can give us specific information about what we're looking for in the answer. Let me give you an example. Let's say your task says, how did the person feel at the end of her journey? So you might hear how they felt at the beginning, how she thought she would feel, but we need to pay attention to how she felt after. Okay, so these keywords are going to help you make sure you know what is the question that you're answering in each of the tasks. If we look at the example that we have now on the screen, this is an example of a part 2 task where we have to complete the sentences with up to 3 words that we hear. So if we pay attention, for example, in number 7, we have that Josh planned to write something for a website. How can I predict it? Well, we know it's going to be some kind of document or written information, so I would write that, something in writing. In the second one, in number 8, he checked out a particular region after occurred there. Well, what could it be? It could be an event, it could be a natural disaster. Writing down these predictions, specifically in part 2 during your pre-listening time, is going to help you follow the task, find the correct answer, and as well make sure that if you leave any blanks at the end of the exam, you can make an educated guess with the prediction that you've done. So Don't forget to use that pre-listening time wisely. Let's move on to the third tip, how to focus on meaning and not just words. Like I mentioned previously, the phrases that we see written on our exam paper are going to be different from the phrases that we hear. So we need to be focusing on listening for more than just words. We need to be listening for meaning. This means listening for things like function. Are the speakers contrasting ideas? Are they criticizing, agreeing, explaining? What words are they using to say this? We want to track any shifts in ideas. What does this mean? In natural spoken word, we many times change the direction of what we're saying. For example, at first, I thought I would be very nervous, but then it turned out I wasn't. That shift, we need to be able to follow that because this is what's going to contrast changes that can affect the meaning more than the actual words that the speaker might be using. Also, a lot of times, meaning is often expressed through tone and not just words. Things like hesitation, emphasis. So if you're doing a task that, for example, asks you, how did the speaker feel? And in the options we have 4 different feelings, the speaker is probably going to convey that message not only through their words, but as well through their intonation. For example, if someone is annoyed, they're going to show that annoyance in their voice. That's the end of that tip, and it takes me to our last tip of the day, how to turn your mistakes into progress. When you're preparing for the listening exam, odds are that you're going to get answers wrong. Sure, but how can I work beyond that? How can I use that to my progress? Well, here's where you're going to use a very useful tool, the script. So once you've done the task in exam practice setting, you've corrected it, now it's time to take out the script. You can do a couple things with the script. I recommend listening to the script again and reading it at the same time. You can even practice something called shadowing, where you yourself are going to be reading out loud what you're hearing. This is also going to help you with pronunciation, very useful for the speaking exam. We also want to focus on how the things are said and not what is being said. So look at that script and compare, oh, this is what they meant and this is how they said it. That comparison is also going to help you in the paraphrasing. How did they change the message from what's written on my sheet to what the audio says? And of course, reviewing vocabulary. Looking at that script is also going to give you a chance to learn vocabulary in context and increase your range of vocabulary. So that's the end of the 4th tip. I hope you found this useful in preparing for your C1 listening exam. You got this.
Exams Factory, your best Cambridge exam experience.